Welcome, everybody, to another edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I'm your host, Art Stapleton, and we are braving the elements here at 1925 Giants Drive. It is week 14, I think, in the NFL season. The Giants are 2-10. 7-game losing streak, have yet to win at MetLife Stadium. And the New Orleans Saints are marching in, like that dad pun, to MetLife on Sunday. Where are we at, Giants fans? I know a lot of you are caught in between the college football season, scouting your next quarterback, and where they're going to be in the draft. And then there are still some of you who are evaluating this team and seeing where you're at. Well, let's just say that the Giants aren't bringing a healthy roster into Sunday's game. The latest, Malik Neighbors, hip flexor, ended up leaving practice on Thursday, was limited in that practice, initially listed as a groin injury. It is a hip flexor. Spent Friday morning getting tested to see what it was. Comes back here, is not practicing on Friday for the Giants. Brian Daboll says he has a chance to play on Sunday. They've yet to rule him out. But let's be honest. This is a situation where the Giants, something has changed here. And, it's kind of funny how we all have that focus of, tanking, they're not tanking, season's over, it's not over. We want to play these roles about, the flip side of the coin is how dare they come out and they lose, yet they're better off by losing. So I'm going to shoot you this one. I personally think that there are a lot of people in this situation. The idea is that there is a focus. They are getting ready for the draft. They're having their meetings this week, starting with their scouts and plotting out how they're going to handle draft season. That is happening. We have the team that has to finish the regular season. When you're 2-10 and you're out of contention, you've got to figure out what's going on. So I'll make the argument that from a coaching perspective, they have a much better chance of getting a team not to quit on them, to play younger players, to play guys from the practice squad, because these guys know that this is the only time that they're going to be out there on the field to get noticed, to make an impact, to be the guys that earn a contract for next year. Let's run down the injuries. And I mentioned Neighbors. I know there are a lot of fantasy football players going into that final week. Yours truly, even though I do not have Malik Neighbors on my team, as I've documented on here, I was a Christian McCaffrey #1 overall pick franchise. We all know how that went. My Sunday night blew up my season, or did it? I can get to that later. But Malik Neighbors, I don't think he plays on Sunday. I think they push it as far as they could. But if the Giants are going to say that they don't believe he's completely out, you got to go from that perspective. Dexter Lawrence, likely out for the season, elbow injury. Theo Johnson, his best game on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys, he fractures his 5th metatarsal in his foot. He is now out for the season after having surgery. It's important to mention that and not just a foot surgery, because initial reports or speculation was that it was a Liz Frank injury, a mid-foot sprain, and then the required surgery. It was not. And the reason, having gotten my doctorate through years of reporting and following social media, that fake media doctorate that us reporters end up getting, I can tell you that a Liz Frank injury is a much more grueling and rigorous and really a difficult recovery. Not that a 5th metatarsal fracture, a Jones fracture, is considered an easy recovery, but it's a big difference for Theo Johnson. So sigh of relief that it is not a Liz Frank injury. Obviously, he's now had surgery and he's got to recover from that. But you hope that Theo Johnson can go into year 2 kind of building off of where he finished in year 1. Now the other guys who are not practicing. Jermaine Illuminor has been limited. It's likely he's not playing on Sunday. You've got now Chris Hubbard, who was not practicing today, has a knee that's getting checked out. He was going to be the starter at right tackle on Sunday if Evan Neal can't play, because Josh Azudu would be at left tackle. Now you're looking at a situation where it's Josh Azudu and who at the other tackle. So we'll see where Hubbard is. Bobby Okereke hasn't practiced all week with a back injury. I think it's safe to say that he's not playing on Sunday. Tay Banks has not practiced all week. He has a rib. I think it's safe to say he's not practicing. Nacho, Rakeem Nunez-Roches, he is not practicing. He has a neck and a shoulder after suffering a stinger against the Cowboys. I don't believe he plays on Sunday. So, what do you got? You got a bunch of guys who are going to be out there and hungry for opportunities. Now, that may be good news for the Saints, who will carry a talent advantage going into this weekend. But you're going to have some guys here who still have things to prove. And, you know, the Giants are going to ride Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary. I don't think there's any question about that. Drew Lock is starting at quarterback. He's a gunslinger. We talked about what that was like with him on Wednesday. He's going to be looking to make plays downfield. So if they take 6 or 7 shots downfield, does Jalen Hyatt or Darius Slayton come up with 1 or 2, change the complexion of a game? That's kind of what you're looking at offensively. Also, you're probably looking at a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson, quick hitters right off the line of scrimmage, where a defensive back or a linebacker is going to come up and drill Wan'Dale. So Wan'Dale may want to go out in a bubble wrap on Sunday, because he's going to be taking a lot of punishment if they go with the quick game. On the defensive side of the ball, I think you're going to see guys at defensive tackle that maybe you haven't seen. You saw a lot of Elijah Chapman in the second half against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. You know, DJ Davidson is banged up. He's another one who I don't think is going to end up playing. Jordan Riley. Will Jordan Riley play this weekend? I think you're going to end up seeing some Casey Rogers and some Elijah Garcia. Who's Elijah Garcia? Well, he's the guy from the Broncos that the Giants signed early in the season. He's been on practice squad all year. So I talked to Andre Patterson about the coaching aspect of it. I asked Brian Dable this today. The idea of guys who are on the practice squad, you don't wait until 5 weeks left in the season when you have to play these guys. And Patterson revealed that he's been meeting with the guys on the practice squad, Rogers and Garcia. They go over scout team film and watching what they've done during the year. So he's coaching these guys on Saturday mornings. And so it'll be interesting for guys like Garcia and Rogers, if they both get called up, what they do against Alvin Kamara and the Saints. So look, it is, I wish I could paint a better picture for you Giants fans, the ones that hope that they're going to go out there and compete. I think it's going to be a very interesting scenario on Sunday to see how these young guys fit in, what kind of game plan Brian Dable comes up with, and just go from there. I think that's kind of where you're at. So let's talk quarterbacks, and not the quarterbacks that are here, but maybe the quarterbacks that are coming. And I've got an interview with Shea Tierney today, and something I want to talk about here and give it to you guys first, because I haven't put out there. But I asked Shea Tierney, when you're looking for quarterbacks, when you've got a quarterback like Drew Lock, who's a gunslinger, what is the challenge of coaching that into a player to become aggressive versus quarterbacks who are too aggressive and you almost want to coach it out of them? And I think that's important, not just for now, but if Brian Dable is the coach here, which I believe he will be, and Shea Tierney returns. Shea Tierney is as close to Brian Dable and what Dable wants in a quarterback as anybody. And I think Tierney's answer I thought was great. And he said, think of it in this way. If with a quarterback, you'd much rather say whoa than giddy up. And he used it in the horse reference. He said, give me a fast horse and I'll slow him down. But you can't make a slow horse fast. And that was the analogy that Shea used regarding Drew Lock and the idea of I'd much rather rein a guy's aggressiveness in rather than trying to coach aggressiveness into a quarterback. And I thought that was very interesting. I'm going to have something on that at the beginning of next week. Keep that in mind when you're looking forward for the Giants and when they're talking about quarterbacks, who they may like in the draft. I think they're on to Shedeur Sanders. From everything I hear, my reporting, he would be the guy that I go with right now. I know there's a lot of talk about Deion and Deion's influence and all that stuff. I'm not worried about that as much as I want to find the right quarterback to lead my franchise. And I know Cam Ward has a lot of tools, maybe a little bit more of a ceiling than Shedeur has. But if I look at where Shedeur is, that's right now where I'm at. Shedeur over Cam. I like both of them, but I think that's where the Giants' focus is right now. So you can't spend all year saying, boy, the Giants really cost themselves last year a shot at one of those quarterbacks because they won games late in the year. And now you look at it as an organization and you say, I can't believe we're not winning games, when you know it's going to cost you an opportunity. Now, there's going to be a lot of talk about how these quarterbacks compare to other quarterbacks in past drafts. We won't know that. We won't know that until we go into next year. And like we've seen with Bo Nix in Denver, now all of a sudden we see Bo Nix with Sean Payton. Apparently Sean Payton was the coach that believed in Bo Nix the most, drafted him, I think it was 12th overall, and now all of a sudden it's why didn't Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll draft Bo Nix? So you can find that quarterback. All that matters is that he's the right guy for you and your system and what you want to do. So we'll see where that is. I'll have more on that next week as to where they are at from that perspective. But I'll leave you with this, and I wrote this in my column on NorthJersey.com, if you haven't seen it, that they should be keeping both Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. That I think John Mara needs to keep them here. You need to give them at least another year, maybe more than that. Stick with continuity because everything else hasn't worked. And my Decade of Despair story is also on NorthJersey.com. I put it out on social media. Check that out if you haven't. But haven't we learned from Giants history, from recent Giants history? If you believed in their plan, let them see it to fruition. Let them see it to the end. And I think, we'll find out if they stay, but I believe they will. And I think the Giants are going to move forward here and try to block out the noise a little bit and do what's best for this organization moving forward. And what's best for this organization right now is, to me, to keep the people in place, that challenge them on the mistakes that they've made, but also believe in what you brought them here for and let them do it. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with that goes. So we'll have more all in next week. My plan right now is to be at the Heisman on the weekend. So I'm hoping against hope that Shedeur Sanders is there, that Cam Ward is there, because we're going to bring that to you, Giants fans, to see what they are saying about your current team. So that's where we're at. So I think I'm going to cut the show there. I am freezing. My hands are cold, but I wanted to get on here. Thanks to producer Paul Wood for making this happen today. Hope you enjoyed today's show. And like I said, I will be back on Sunday. We will try to do a post-game episode from the friendly confines of MetLife Stadium. But that's where we're at. So I know Giants fans, this is a tough season and a tough way to go out. But I'd say stick with it because it'll be very interesting to see how this offseason plays out. We got 5 games left. You're 2-10. Can you get that surprise win on Sunday? Well, we'll have to wait and see. So for Art Stapleton, that is me. And for NorthJersey.com, thanks for being all in, and we'll see you on Sunday.